All right, let's jump right into this explainer. We're tackling one of the oldest, most mind-bending questions out there. Can we actually figure out anything about God just by observing the world around us? We're not pulling out telescopes today, and we're not debating ancient texts. Instead, we're going to look right at the patterns of life itself. Today, we're exploring a totally fascinating imaginary conversation between five absolute heavyweights of history: Aristotle, C.S. Lewis, Carl Jung, Martin Buber, and Erich Fromm. Together, they kind of reframe our entire relationship with the universe, walking us step by step from the physical world all the way down to the deepest parts of the human heart. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the visible and invisible, look for clues in human nature, explore masculinity and femininity, dive into the parental heart, and wrap it all up with the human family. All right, part one, the visible and invisible. Everywhere we look, we see physical things that are actually expressing invisible realities. Think about an acorn. It's this tiny little thing, right? But it literally carries the invisible potential to become a massive oak tree. Or think about paint on a canvas. That comes from an artist's completely unseen idea. Written words, they start in a writer's invisible mind. The visible world is constantly giving birth to the unseen. And Aristotle really hits the nail on the head here. Reality doesn't just consist of objects you can touch. It's filled with meaning and purpose that are just waiting to become visible. So think about it. If every visible thing we make or see comes from an invisible reality, why would the universe itself be any different? Maybe the universe is actually the visible expression of a much deeper, unseen source. Moving on to part two, clues in human nature. Here's where it gets really interesting. We as humans are completely defined by invisible qualities. I mean, you can't put justice on a scale. You can't take a photograph of hope or put love and trust under a microscope. But we never ever doubt that they exist. Actually, it's these invisible qualities that completely govern our visible lives. C.S. Lewis puts this brilliantly. He frames our deepest human longings as actual clues. We all desperately crave beauty, truth, and relationship. A beautiful sunset doesn't physically feed us. But man, it nourishes us, doesn't it? Lewis is basically saying that just like physical hunger points to the fact that food exists, our deep psychological and spiritual longings point straight to a real source that can actually satisfy them. Which brings us to a huge question. Can a source give what it doesn't possess? Just think about that for a second. A totally unintelligent cause isn't going to produce intelligence. A random, purposeless cause doesn't produce purpose. So our very real human capacities for reason, creativity, and love, they must be reflections of the one whose nature gave rise to ours in the first place. Okay, part three, masculinity and femininity. When we look at humanity, we see these separated, distinct forms. But those forms point back to the invisible wholeness of their origin. It strongly suggests that God can't be completely represented by just masculinity or just femininity alone. That ultimate source has to contain the origin of the qualities we see in both. Both strength and tenderness, direction and embrace. Carl Jung takes this a step further. He explains that masculine and feminine aren't just two sealed-off, totally opposing worlds. Not at all. They are distinct expressions that point right back to one unified source. These differences actually create mutual dependence. It's a huge reminder that life always begins through relationship, not isolation. And this beautifully bridges our whole inquiry. Men and women aren't just about differences or attraction. Their complementary union actually opens outward into the massive responsibility and sacrifice of parenthood. They literally become the source of life for another person. They enter into a relationship where love gives long before it ever receives. That leads us right into part four, the parental heart. Parental love is just utterly unique, isn't it? It starts totally differently than romantic love or a friendship, mainly because a parent values a child's existence way before their performance. A child is accepted simply for being there, and at the same time, they're protected but also carefully prepared for their own freedom. Now notice how mature parenting requires both structure and a warm embrace. Fatherly love is often experienced as direction, calling the child forward. Motherly love often offers comfort and that deep assurance of belonging. So logically, the ultimate source of humanity must contain the origin of both of these forms of care to foster true, well-rounded growth.
Erich Fromm helps us land on something really beautiful here. If we possess qualities that resemble our source, then trying to understand God with a parental heart might actually be the most complete, accurate human language we have to describe the source of life. It takes God from this distant, cold concept and turns it into a deeply relational reality.
And finally, part 5, the human family. This paradigm shift is absolutely essential. Just think about the difference here. A maker builds an object for a function, like a potter making a bowl, right? But a parent gives life to a child for a relationship. A creator might demand mechanical obedience, but a parent prepares you for freedom and deeply desires a real mutual bond. Martin Buber reminds us of something so crucial. A parent ultimately desires love that is freely returned, not forced compliance. Forced love is literally a contradiction. This means human freedom isn't some flaw in the system. It's absolutely necessary. You have to be totally free to choose to return that love. Otherwise, well, it isn't love at all. Wow, this completely shifts our entire understanding of ethics. If we really do share one divine parent, that means every single person on earth has inherent, completely unearned value, simply based on their origin, not their status. Suddenly, the stranger is a sibling. All our divisions of race, class, and nationality are completely challenged. Goodness stops being just about following the rules and becomes all about learning to love the exact way the original parent loves. So, we follow this logic all the way from the cosmos down to a tiny acorn right into our own hearts, and we arrive at this deeply emotional realization. Our ultimate purpose is to grow in love and resemblance to our source. We belong to God, not like possessions sitting dusty on a shelf, but as growing, learning, and fiercely loved children. So, I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought. If we truly share one divine parent, how should we be living with one another? Like, what would it actually take for us to start living as one unified family? To explore this full conversation and really dive deeper into what all this means, please go visit imaginarytalks.com/Does Creation Reveal the Nature of God? Keep questioning, keep learning, and I will catch you in the next explainer.